You come from Belize. Did you make some good money from Belize? Were you able to save some money?
No, I actually lost money. Like my apartment rent was more. My rent in Houston was more than what I was making, but I knew that I would learn more. So to me, the value was not the money. It was the skills that I would learn.
This is huge because what I'm seeing in this generation, right, over the last 5 years is that people are valuing making more than the skill set, and they're chasing the more and they're not getting the skill set.
I mean, I would say if you're like a 20-year-old, you have no skills, right? Like you probably likely have very little skills, and you're gonna build those along the way. So you can't expect to make a ton of money with little skills. You have to first build your skills to then transition that and convert that into energy, which will turn into money, right? Yeah. And so I was losing money by being in Belize, but I still had my real estate license active in Texas, and I was still doing deals in Texas, and I figured out how to do it from Belize.
Value the skill set over the dollars.
Yeah.
Because that money will come if you get the skills.
Right. And you might be presented with an opportunity that you're not ready to take if you don't have the skills.
Yes. Welcome to another edition of TM3 Impact. Today I have Inyaki, Strick, realtor with Cooper Sotheby's. Welcome to TM3 Impact.
Hey, thank you so much. So excited to be here.
Yes, Inyaki, I'm super pumped to have you on the show. So let's start out. First question I always ask, tell me, Cliff Note version, your San Antonio story. How did you come to be a part of this amazing community here in San Antonio and New Braunfels?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. I went to Texas State to study business management in San Marcos. So I was familiar with the Texas Hill Country, but I grew up in the Woodlands north of Houston. So immediately after college, I moved back to the Woodlands. I started my real estate career there. And then I went to Belize, worked on that real estate development down there. Then I raised capital, which I could do from anywhere, and loving the hill country, I decided to move to New Braunfels, and that's how I ended up in San Antonio. So that's the Cliff Notes.
That's the Cliff Notes. Yeah. I love it. That was quick.
Yeah.
That was quick.
You said Cliff Notes.
I love it. Okay, so you grew up in the Woodlands.
In the Woodlands, yeah.
So tell me, what was 16-year-old Inyaki? What was your deal back when you were younger? What were you all about?
So, all of my influence comes from my mom. She was a single mother, and I always saw her as this successful nutritionist, business owner. And so ever since I was a little kid, I remember being like 6 years old and being in the car with her, and I just wanted to be like her. I just wanted to be successful. I didn't know how or in what industry or what I was going to do. I was a kid, right? So as a 16-year-old, I was just in high school trying to figure out things. I've been working since I've been 10 years old,
Okay.
So I've always been doing something, and I just wanted to be successful.
What was your first job that you remember?
My first real job was a little league baseball umpire, because that's the only thing you could do as a 15-year-old.
You were umpiring at 15.
Yeah, every other job you had to wait till you were 16.
Right.
But a little league umpire, you could do it at 15. I knew nothing about baseball.
Had you even played baseball?
I had never played baseball. I just wanted to make money. So I got the rule book, and I studied the night before my first game.
Get out.
Yeah, and so I was making bad calls. The parents were upset. One of the dads cussed me out, and I kicked him out. The police escorted him out, and I had no idea what I was doing, but I was making $35 a game. And as a 15-year-old, I was doing 3-4 games per weekend, and I loved it as a 15-year-old.
Yeah. So what did money at 15, 16, growing up, because it's funny, I had Jay Cooper, and Jay Cooper, do you know his first job?
No.
He was at Fink Cigars.
No way.
Yeah. He worked at the cigar factory here in San Antonio. But what did the money represent to you at 16?
It represented freedom. I watched my mom work very hard. She was always just looking out for us, and I wanted to make sure that I could take care of myself so she didn't have to take care of me. So I just wanted to be able to support myself so that she could slow down and not have to continue to work.
And what did she do? She was a nutritionist?
She was a nutritionist.
She owned her own business?
Yeah. In Mexico City, she was one of the top nutritionists, and different artists and personalities would come to get nutrition plans from her.
Wow.
So she was interviewed on podcasts, she was on the newspaper, she was on TV shows, and so being on podcasts and things like that, I get all of that from my mom.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool. And is your mom still in the Woodlands?
Yeah, she actually moved to Sugar Land because my sister moved to Sugar Land, so she followed my sister. But they're still in the Houston area.
That's cool. So growing up, what do you think was the number one thing that mom taught you about business that you probably even use today?
Yeah, I mean, just that really anything is possible as long as you're determined and you work hard at it. So, anything that you want to go do, obviously it takes work to go do it. But if you are focused on it and you continue to work towards it, you can achieve it.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So you graduate high school from the Woodlands, then you go to school. Was Texas State like your first option?
It was my only option.
Yeah.
And to be honest, at that time, I knew that it was a party school and I wanted to go have fun.
Yeah.
And my goal was to go have so much fun in college that when I graduated, I could focus on business. So I had that mindset going into college.
Okay. It's like, let's get the partying over with, let's go, and then let's get to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Fraternity? Were you in fraternity?
Yeah, I was the vice president of my fraternity.
Oh, get out.
Oh, yeah, it was so much fun.
What do you think was the biggest thing? Because obviously, like for young people, right? Because we're hearing a lot of people talk about how college, it's not necessary. It's a scam. We're hearing all about that, right? So based on, your pathway into where you are today, what would you say were some of the pluses of college?
Yeah. I mean, I would say the education component of it is definitely a scam. And how you sign up as an 18-year-old for a loan that you don't even understand the terms is a scam.
Yeah.
But the relationships that you get to build and the fun that you get to have, that's totally worth it. I would totally go back again, do it over again.
Yeah.
And especially being in a fraternity, I made so many deep connections that I still carry through today that have helped in business because those are real relationships that they know that I'm looking out for their best interest whenever they come and reach out to me for real estate advice. So it's definitely helped me with my career, having gone to college, but in a relationship side of things, not in a education.
In the
side.
education, which is, I think that's the piece that some of this, the ideas are, and even Gary Vee touches on this. It's like, look, it's the relationships, right? It's really the relationships. And so, and then the aspect of you're building these relationships with people that later, have you done business with any of these, your fraternity brothers?
A lot of them. Yeah. All the time.
Yeah. So just that alone has helped you later, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So now you graduate and you end up in Belize?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
So, I'm always searching, I'm always studying, I'm always learning. Like, I'm always learning something, right? And so at that time, I wanted to be a real estate investor. And the only reason why, I was in business school at Texas State, but I didn't really know what business I was going to do.
Okay.
And the very last semester, I wanted to not go to school on Fridays, to be quite honest. And the only class that would make my schedule do that is by doing real estate finance. And so I took a real estate finance course just so that I could only go to school Monday through Thursday. Turns out I loved that class, and I had so much fun with that class that I started studying outside of the class more about real estate.
Okay. Now, real quick, anybody in your family part of real estate?
No.
Nobody.
No
realtors, no developers, no nothing. Okay, interesting. Keep going. Yeah.
And so I found this little purple book called Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oh, that's a good one.
That was the first book that I read by choice, right? That somebody didn't tell me, like, hey, you have to read this for class. Like, it was the first book that I read by choice. Totally loved it. And so I was like, I'm going to be a real estate investor. But at that time, I didn't have any money and I didn't have any experience. This was 2014.
2014 is when you graduated.
When I graduated.
Got it. Okay.
Yep. And, I was like, how do I become a real estate investor? I have no money. I have no experience. Yeah. So I said, I'll just start selling real estate. If I become a real estate agent, I can get an income while I start learning about contracts, about comparable sales, and start learning about the industry itself. So I never said, I'm going to be a realtor. I'm going to be a successful realtor. That was never the goal.
Yeah. So it was, let me learn the industry, make some money so I can go invest.
Yeah, exactly.
That's smart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So by doing that, I started going to investment conferences. Like, that's all I did at the beginning. I would go to many real estate investment conferences.
Okay.
And there I met the real estate guys, and they had this summit at sea. It was a 12-day summit at sea.
You told me, yes.
Tell
me
about
this.
And it was $12,000. And at that point, that was so much money for me, right? And I was, just graduated from high school, had no money. But I was like, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out how to get on there. So I go on their website, and I hear that they have a young adults program where it's half the price. It's only $6,000. Well, at that point, $6,000 was still a lot of money for me.
Yeah.
But then they said that there's some investors that like to sponsor the young adults, and they'll cut it down to $3,000.
Stop it.
So I applied. I had to submit a video. I recorded the video, sent the first one that I recorded. Even though I stumbled over my words, I knew that it was an authentic video, and I really wanted to be on this.
Yeah.
Well, they reached back out to me, and they're like, yeah, you got it. You got the scholarship. So they said, we still are going to charge you the $3,000 because we want you to have skin in the game, right?
100%.
Because if you get something for free, you don't see it as valuable.
Yep.
So I go on this 12-day cruise to where in the cruise, we were in the theater the entire time that we were on the ship.
Yeah.
And then we would get to an island, and then we would network on the beach or whatever. But in the theater, we would be learning from Robert Kiyosaki, Tom Wheelwright, like all these amazing people. And that's where I met Kyle Wilson, which we were speaking about earlier.
Yeah. So I'm going to pause right there. So had you already read Rich Dad Poor Dad?
I already
prior?
read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Did you know about the cruise before Rich Dad Poor Dad?
No.
Or you read it first?
I read Rich Dad Poor Dad first.
Okay.
Which led me to learn more about investing. Then
Yeah.
I got Bigger Pockets book.
Okay, yeah.
And then in the Bigger Pockets book, they mentioned the Real Estate Guys radio. So then I went to the podcast. And the very first podcast I heard, they were promoting their investment summit at sea.
Yeah.
So on this cruise, strategically, the Real Estate Guys run the summit, and they have, different stops along the way. And we stop at this in Belize, and we get to see this beautiful development. And at that time, I was like in the investment mindset, but I was selling real estate, and I could see all these sellers in the Woodlands. They had so much equity, and what were they doing with it? They were just buying the next house. And I was like, oh my God, they have so much equity. They could invest in real estate, put a lower down payment on their next house, and that investment property can pay for their mortgage.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to figure out how to help them. And when I saw Belize and the luxury properties down there, I was like, this is a good fit. Let me figure out how I can match my sellers to buy property in Belize.
Okay.
So me and those developers went, into a conversation about how we could do that. And I was at the gym, and I remember getting a phone call, and they're like, hey, Inyaki, rather than trying to figure out this whole business plan, why don't you just come work for us in Belize? And I'm like, I'm a year and a half into real estate. Like, I'm finally starting to get some momentum.
In the Woodlands.
Yeah,
which is a great area. Yep.
And having to move to an island in the Caribbean meant leaving everything that I've worked for the past year and a half behind, right? Because I was starting over. But I had my goal, and my goal was to be an investor. And I knew that by surrounding myself with investors and developers, that's how I was going to get closer to that goal. Yeah. So I called him back within 45 minutes, and I told him I'm in.
Wow.
A week later, I had moved to Belize.
Yeah.
I went back home. I was living with my parents at the time, and I told them, hey, I'm moving to Belize. And my mom was like, what?
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, so I moved to Belize. I worked directly for the CEO and developer. And I got to learn so much by doing that for over a year.
You did it for a year.
I did it for a year.
Wow. So you're over there now. I would imagine this was it a condo development or was it homes?
Single family homes. They're run by Hilton, so it's you can buy into a Curio by Hilton.
Yeah.
So
it was timeshare / full ownership or
full ownership.
Full
no
ownership.
timeshares.
No timeshares.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So you got to meet some amazing people out there.
I got to meet some amazing people. And what we would do is we would just fly out to California to investment conferences. I was on stage as a 22, 23-year-old talking about the opportunity of Belize.
Wow.
And there could be 200 people in the room. Out of those 200, maybe 10 would sign up to come on a discovery trip.
Yeah.
And then out of those 10, 1 or 2 would buy. And we were just doing that over and over again.
What was the average price?
Anywhere between 500 to 1.2 million.
I mean, 500 in Belize, though, is like, what's that worth now? Those are all $1 million houses now?
Yeah, that was 8-9 years ago. So I'm sure.
I'm sure they went up. What do you think was your biggest takeaway from Belize that year? Because you're in you speak Spanish?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was your biggest takeaway being over there, living there and then selling? What do you think you took away from that?
Well, it was a $250 million project, and I was working directly for the CEO. So I learned how to have speed. So she moved so fast in everything that we did, and we implemented things so fast, and we fixed it along the way. So rather than like trying to come up with this huge plan on how we're going to do something, we just went and did it and then figured out the kinks along the way. So I got to learn a lot from her. And in one of the podcasts that she had been, I had heard that she mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, which she brought up earlier. And I was like, oh, she likes Gary V. I like Gary V. So I reached out to Gary's V team, you know, and but I said, if I reach out to Gary V directly, he's not going to respond. Maybe he will. But instead, I figured out who his right hand was. I reached out to him and I basically pitched him like, hey, I think there's many different ways that we can work together. Either Gary can run our media, he can invest in this property, or he can have an event down here. Like there's probably some synergy in between. Well, they reached back out and we schedule a meeting and we fly out to New York. And I just tell the CEO, hey, I got you a meeting with Gary V. And she's like, what? So I was like, yeah, but I have to be there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm going.
Yeah. So we met with Gary Vee for an hour over lunch.
Get out.
He ordered so much food just to be kind to the restaurant, and nobody ate anything. We're just, talking.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've got to meet him. Very high energy.
Oh yeah.
Super high energy. Just were y'all able to put anything together? Did anything work out?
Yeah. They ended up working together, but at that time I left. Yeah. I left right after that.
Wow, that's cool. So that's one thing I think young people, right? Talk about the risk. Like you've taken some big risks, right? Going to Belize and then moving here, not knowing anybody. Did you know anybody when you moved here?
Nobody.
So talk about the idea of taking risk with young people today coming out of college, being willing to take that. Talk through that.
Yeah, I think first you have to be very certain in yourself and that you're going to figure it out no matter what, right? Because if you don't have that certainty in yourself, you're not going to take risks. And the more you take risks, like don't go out and take a huge risk, start taking small risks and see how they start paying off. And then you start building that muscle of taking risk. And then you figure out that, hey, like not everything I've tried has worked out. In fact, there's most of the projects I have started have failed, but then people only see the ones that have succeeded, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing is you just got to keep going, and don't stop.
How do you help? How does somebody get certainty? Because like we do a lot of Grant Cardone training, right?
Yeah.
And look, he preaches this idea of certainty, of knowing, a knowingness, right? When you know, and when you know, you grow. Like when you will make things happen. How does somebody get more certain? How does a young person do that? How did you do that?
I wish I could teach you or teach anybody how to do it, but I think it just comes down to having faith, right? And faith is not knowing whether it's going to work out or not, but still doing the thing or still following through. So you just have to like believe in yourself, and like it could be a little bit crazy sometimes. Like like where's that line of like too much faith and that something's going to work out? And the thing is, you just got to figure it out along the way. And like I said, I think that over time, it's a muscle that you work at.
That's risk is definitely. I will agree with that. Like when we started Luxury Home Magazine, it was a franchise. So the risk wasn't. I mean, it was there, but it wasn't as heavy as starting something from scratch, right? Sure. We had some backing. We had people that we could call. But then that muscle leads and it grows and it gets a little bit bigger, and then it's like, well, let's try this. And then we bought a school.
Yeah.
We ended up buying a Spanish immersion pre-K.
Okay.
My wife and I did. And we went through the whole SBA loan process. And so you're right. Like you build it up over time, just like lifting, just like, weights and whatnot. Okay. So let's talk about your transition. You come from Belize. Did you make some good money from Belize? Were you able to save some money?
No, I actually lost money. Like my apartment rent was more. No. My rent in Houston was more than what I was making, but I knew that I would learn more. So to me, the value was not the money. It was the skills that I would learn.
Okay, this is huge. So I need you to emphasize this point with young people, because what I'm seeing in this generation, right, over the last 5 years, is that people are valuing making more than the skill set, and they're chasing the more, and they're not getting the skill set.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you're like a 20-year-old, you have no skills, right? Like you likely have very little skills, and you're going to build those along the way. So you can't expect to make a ton of money with little skills. You have to first build your skills to then transition that and convert that into energy, which will turn into money, right? And so I was losing money by being in Belize, but I still had my real estate license active in Texas, and I was still doing deals in Texas, and I figured out how to do it from Belize. And my clients had no idea, right? Like I was getting help from other agents in the office to show property and things like that, but I was selling property in Texas from Belize to keep myself afloat.
That's awesome. I love it. I love that, because this is so critical. It's value the skill set over the dollars.
Yeah.
Because that money will come if you get the skills.
Right.
Because if you just chase the money and you don't build the skills, then that's probably going to fall apart.
Yeah. And you might be presented with an opportunity that you're not ready to take if you don't have the skills.
Yes, that's a big. Okay, so why New Braunfels? Let's talk about your move here and New Braunfels. Talk about that transition.
Yeah, so from leaving Belize, I had been approached by a real estate investor, and like I had learned that you could raise capital to buy bigger deals together as a group, right? And so I said,
like syndication?
Syndication,
Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And remember, my goal is to be a real estate investor, which I am now, right?
Yeah.
But at that time, I wasn't yet. Yeah. But I wanted to learn how to put syndications together, so I went and worked for a real estate firm that raised capital. And so I worked directly for them, helping them acquire that capital. And I could do that remotely because I was just traveling to conferences, doing it via Zoom and on the phone call. So I could live anywhere at that time. And having been in San Marcos for, while I was in college, I knew about New Braunfels because I worked at the gristmill. I was a server.
Oh, get out.
Yeah. I've worked since I was 15 years old. Right?
I love it.
So I've always had a
Gristmill is
job.
awesome.
Yeah.
Shout out to Gristmill. That's a great restaurant.
I was the #1 server there, by the way.
Get out.
Because they keep track of your PPA, your per person average. And the more you sold per person, the better sections you would get and the more, tables that you would get. So I was the #1, almost an agent, the #1 server there.
Yeah.
At that
You
point.
remember and this is, I tell people all the time, and I've even told this to my son, I think everybody needs a wait table.
Yeah, I
growing
think so.
up.
Yeah, and the reason why I would say is because you interact with so many people and you get to interact with so many different people, and in a way you're selling, right? You're
selling.
You're not just waiting tables. You're upgrading them to the perfect Patron margarita, or you're learning how to upsell. You're learning how to conversate with people, and I even got a few job offers from the people that I met. And I figured out that the way to get the better tips was not to go back and get the food out the fastest. I would let the other servers do that for me, and I would just talk to them, and I would just ask them about themselves, ask them about their family, where they were from, what they were doing in town. And so I would build a relationship over the 30, 45 minutes that we had together. And I got huge tips all the time. Because we built a relationship.
Yeah, in this business is so critical is knowing people and making sure that you're authentic in that process. It's so critical. Okay, so you knew about a grist mill and you're like, New Braunfels, I'm gonna move there. Just let's go.
So we just ended up, because I could live anywhere at that time. Right? So I was like, okay, I can raise capital from anywhere. Let's go live in the hill country. And while I was there, I ended up getting, like, the way that the thing was set up is the more money I raised, the bigger of a bonus I would get, right? And so once I got to a certain point, I would get this huge bonus. Well, it turns out right before I hit that, which the goal was for a year, I almost hit that in 6 months. I got let go. And I was like, big business lesson. Read your agreements.
Wow.
But you always got to take a lesson, right? Like, and that's what my mom has taught me as well. And the lesson I took from that is I don't want to treat any of the people that work for me the way that I was treated. And so that was the last day that I worked for somebody else. And then that's when I went back into residential sales. I then went on to hire an assistant. Now I have a team, and my goal is to treat my team the way that they should be treated. Those lessons they're powerful because they help you know how to move forward in the future. But they also tell you, okay, hey, what did I miss? And you missed the agreement. Right. You missed something in the agreement. Yeah, exactly. Like, well, I missed thinking through it. Like, I could get let go at any point. You know?
And you've done all that work. And then they get to move the ball forward. With all the people. Wow, that's a bummer. But it opened up a door for you to get into real estate here. And then talk about, did you go straight to Sotheby's? Like, how did that end up happening?
Yeah, exactly. So I was with Sotheby's in Houston, right? So naturally I went straight into the Sotheby's office. I walked in wearing a full suit because that's what you did in Houston. And they were like, what are you doing here? Like, in New Braunfels, in San Antonio, you can still wear a full suit, but in New Braunfels, it's more of a laid back atmosphere. And they were like, you can't do that here. So now you see me in shorts and a short sleeve shirt, and this is how I sell multi-million-dollar houses now. But I walked straight in there. I told him, hey, I'm gonna work here. At the time, I'll say her name because she'll tell you it's true. Janet, a good agent there. I gave her my business card, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna work here, and she tells me that she just threw it in the trash.
Oh gosh.
But the admin at that point, like, heard our conversation, and the admin reached out to our vice president, and she was like, hey, somebody walked in here that you may want to talk to. So I got reached out by the vice president. We met together, and she was like, hired me on the spot.
Who was that? Carolyn Rhodes? Carolyn's awesome. Shout out to Carolyn. She's awesome. So you start residential. At that point, this would have been, what year would that have been? Like 3-4 years ago?
No, this was like 5 years ago.
Before COVID.
Before COVID. Yep.
Okay. And so you just jumpstart. Let's go. You're all in.
Yeah, I'm all in. I don't know anyone in New Braunfels. I have no network because I've been in my house just raising capital, just talking to investors on the phone and on Zoom. So in New Braunfels, I didn't know anybody, right? And so I was like, okay, I don't know anyone. My calendar's blank. How do I meet people? Because I knew that real estate was about people. So I went to the Chamber of Commerce website, the Junior Chamber of Commerce, and I found all the events. And I just made it my job to fill my calendar with events to meet people.
Smart.
And then my first year, that's all I did. I would just go network.
It's smart. So this brings me back to when I started Luxury Home Magazine. Okay, so in 2011 when I started it, so we're about to have our anniversary, 14 years, and going to 15 years.
Congrats.
And
that's awesome.
and I remember vividly, I joined the Bernie Chamber.
Nice.
Okay, I show up to the Bernie and I've got my first magazine. I was like, hey, can I put this here? And they're like, well, you need to become a member. They signed me up, and I did I went to every ribbon cutting. The ribbon cuttings.
Oh, yeah.
And this is I want you to talk to this because it's really important for new agents. This is a new agent. Like let's do a PSA for all the new agents, right? And this is for all the new agents to understand. Networking is going to be critical for your success. Talk about what was it that you were doing at those meetings to not just generate business, because they think, oh, I got to generate a deal.
Yeah.
Talk about that. It's not necessarily about generating the deal.
Right.
What were you doing at these networking events?
Before New Braunfels, I had been already networking with real estate investors, right? So I got my education on networking through real estate investment conferences. And at first, I thought networking was pass out your business card to as many people as you can. That's what I thought networking was. Later on, I realized networking is actually building relationships. So I'd rather go to a networking event and only talk to a couple people and go deeper rather than wider. And what I was doing is I would figure out like what their business was, what they were doing, and what they needed. And then I would connect them with somebody else that could help them. And it had nothing to do with real estate. I was just building goodwill in a sense. And eventually they would ask me what I did for a living, but I never brought it up. I waited for them to ask me.
Oh, I love it. Okay, there's your PSA for all young agents. Like you heard it here, like find ways to help people solve problems.
Exactly.
Right?
And I have new agents on my team now, right? And you know, sometimes it's easier said than done because you're hungry, you want to make that money, and it doesn't happen that fast. It's not instantly. But if you think of real estate as a snowball going down a hill, and every year it's going to get bigger and bigger and more clients, and you have that mindset, just plant the seeds. Just go network, meet people, and help them however you can. And like my longest referral was from 9 years ago. I met somebody 9 years ago, and just last year they sent me a referral. And I just kept up with them saying happy birthday every year.
Jeez. Again, agents, it's this is the little details, right? These are the little details. Now we got to take a small detour back because at some point you decided to write a book.
Yeah.
Right? Like this was this before Belize or after Belize?
It was during
that time.
Yeah, during that time. I wanted to have I was young at the time, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to have something that would build credibility. So I said, I'm gonna write a book on everything that I'm learning. I'm gonna write a book about real estate. And so through the network that I had been building, I met Kyle Wilson, which he's the business partner of Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn is the one that said, you're the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So I was talking to him at a conference and I was like, hey, I want to write a book. At that point, we already had a relationship, right? Like it wasn't the first thing I told him. And he goes, well, hold on. I'm putting a book together. It's being published by the same people that published Chicken Soup for the Entrepreneurial Soul. And we're doing, a new version of that. And we're putting together business owners, entrepreneurs, and a lot of real estate people in this book. And he invited me to write a chapter in it. Well, it ended up becoming an Amazon #1 bestseller. And I got what I wanted, which was to build credibility. And it was way easier. I only had to write one chapter. And I didn't have to figure out all the logistics of how to get it published and on Amazon and for it to become a #1 bestseller.
That's awesome. The one thing that changed everything, you see this, look at this. Inyaki, look at this picture right here, man. That's such a great picture.
Thank you.
What a cool story to be a part of. And most people don't know that the gentleman Jim Rohn was actually Anthony Robbins' mentor.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins became Tony Robbins because of Jim Rohn.
That's right. Yeah.
And all of those guys have a connection. It's so cool. So biggest lesson you learned in writing this, going through this process?
Things can be easier than you expect them to be. I thought it was going to take me years to write a book, and by having the right connections, by having the right people, I wrote my chapter in one day at a Starbucks over the course of like 5 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to write again? Do you think you would write again?
I'm sure
that?
I will.
Yeah.
It's not, now it's all about opportunity cost, right? Like every project that we start, there's always an opportunity cost because you can do so many things, right?
True.
So I'm sure I'll write something at some point again.
True.
Actually, I wrote another book, but I used ChatGPT to write it just based on all the knowledge that I have inputted into it.
I love that.
Yeah.
The technology today is nutty.
Yeah.
So now let's go through. You've been at Sotheby's now. You've been an agent 9 years, and you're in this New Braunfels market. Let's talk about what is it that you're learning about the New Braunfels market, running a team.
Yeah.
What are the challenges you're facing, and then what is it that that makes you unique in that market?
Well, whenever I first went to the office, there was a lot of high producing agents, and then what I noticed is they were all individual agents, which most agents are individual agents. But as soon as I got there, I started telling everybody, I'm looking for an assistant, I'm looking for help, and even my own colleagues were like, why are you doing that? Like, you don't know anybody. You haven't done a deal in New Braunfels. Why are you looking for an assistant? Yeah. Well, I knew where I was going, and I knew that I was going to need help. And I never really set out to have a team. I just needed help at the time. I wanted to grow fast. And over the course of the years, by working with developers, working with builders, I started to need more help and more bodies, and that's how I started the team. And I've learned so much by leading a team. It's so much different than selling real estate. And
100%.
so that's like the mindset that I'm in right now, how to become a better leader.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So what was the biggest challenge in building a team?
You know, the biggest challenge is transferring the knowledge from me to them, right? Because they're not me. And like the way that I operate and the way that I generate deals is not necessarily going to be the same way that they generate deals, because everybody has a different personality. And the thing about real estate is you can make it in so many different ways, right? Some people like cold calling, some people like relationships. Like there's so many different ways to generate leads, and you have to find the one that works for you. For me, it's face-to-face networking.
Is it meeting people?
Yeah.
People. Yeah. It's an interesting thing. I know you were just in Phoenix doing you were at a golf tournament. And I remember I saw that on Facebook, and I thought to myself, I was like, okay, he's in Phoenix, but he's with other agents. How many referrals have you gotten from that group?
So I was just interviewing a top agent panel, and that was one of the questions, like, what is your referral business? What percentage of your business comes from other agents? Over the years, I had gotten it up to 30%, and people were blown away that other agents were sending me 30% of my business. Well, this past year, it was 50%. And so I have proven to myself that going out to these events with other Sotheby's agents, even though it can be costly and it can be timely, right? Like you have a flight, you have a hotel, you have the time that you have to go there. Like that's my business.
50%, Inyaki, that's amazing.
On Facebook and Instagram, people think I'm just traveling and having so much leisure all the time. I'm working. It looks like fun, which it is. I figured out how to make it both.
Yeah. I'm so glad that we had this podcast in this moment.
Yeah.
And here's why. I think right now there are a lot of agents that they want to do things in such a way where they want to skip steps, right? They want to go from the bottom of the mountain to the top of the mountain. Yeah. And they're like, they don't want to climb, and they don't want to do the work to get up there, right? And so the fact that, you're talking about, number one, it's, hey, my number one lead generation is people. I'm a connector, but you're not just connecting to say buy something.
Right.
You're connecting to say, hey, can I solve something?
Right.
If you can solve the bigger problems we solve, let's look at Zuckerberg. He solved the massive problem. Yeah. There's a big reward.
Right.
So the bigger problem we solve. And so for agents listening to this, man, I hope you hear this, is understand. So that referral business is critical to how you grow and what you're doing. So what do you think you're doing differently when you're meeting those agents so that you do get those referrals? What do you think you're doing differently that other agents aren't doing? Let's set aside the fact of going, right? Because people are going to stuff.
Sure.
But what are you doing differently?
That's a great question, and I love that because it builds into my whole philosophy of how I do business. And I believe in meditating and affirmations. And so one day I was meditating really intensely, trying to figure out how to take my business to the next level. And I came out of that meditation knowing to be a friend first and a realtor second. So I don't lead with, hey, I'm a realtor. I lead to see, hey, can we be friends? And so that's all I do. Yeah. Whenever I'm networking, I don't care about business. I care about connecting with people I can be friends with.
Yeah, be a friend first before an agent. Yeah, I love that. That's great advice. We'll definitely have to clip that one, Soren. Be a friend first.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. That's critical. Okay, so now talk about, going back to that cruise. I think back to the fact that you were on that boat and you were surrounded by greatness. You're surrounded by guys like Kyle Wilson, right? You're surrounded by some of these, Kiyosaki, who wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, which you had read the book, and now he's right there.
Right.
Did you ever get to have a conversation with just Robert by himself, just where you get to talk?
Oh, not only did I get to have a conversation, I got to have dinner with him. I attended his birthday party. He knows me by name.
That's stinking incredible.
Yeah, because my name is unique and rare, so he remembers my name. Because we had dinner not the other day, but later on, he was like, Inyaki, how you doing?
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So when you go back to that cruise and you think back to just all the circumstances, because I don't believe in luck, right? Luck is, you prepared yourself, there's an opportunity in front of you and things happen. And so what do you think was the biggest takeaway from being on that cruise and surrounding yourself with those investors?
I thought I was thinking big, but I was thinking small. Those people were so big, you know, they're so much farther ahead than where I was at. And it showed me the possibilities. And Kyle Wilson told me you can only connect the dots when you look backwards, meaning like sometimes you're in a situation, you're at an event, and you may not know why it's happening to you. It might be a negative thing, it might be a positive thing, but then years down the line, you're like, oh, had I not done that or had I not attended that, I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
100%. Yeah, so let me make sure I get that. You can't connect the dots until you look behind. Yeah, which is so true because sometimes we're trying to connect the dots in the future.
Right.
But our future's not linear.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some, have you seen that drawing of success? It's like people think it's a straight line.
Right.
But it's like,
yeah, exactly.
So what are you investing in right now? In terms of real estate, what are some of the projects? What are you doing? What do you got cooking that you're excited about?
Yeah, so going to Belize also opened up more possibilities to me because I thought that to invest in real estate, you had to buy a single family home in your own neighborhood, right? Like that. At first, that's what I thought. Well, being in Belize, I learned like, oh, you don't even have to invest in your own neighborhood or a different state. You can invest in a different country. So I started looking at different countries for investment opportunities, and I went to Tulum, and I fell in love with that market.
Yeah.
And I kept going back. I kept researching the market. I saw some good indicators that it was going to continue to grow. They're about to start the project of having the biggest international airport in that state of Mexico, and there's so much tourism there. So I decided to invest there. I got myself a condo. I short-term rented. We now manage 17 condos in the same building, and so you don't have to invest in your own backyard. You can find opportunities elsewhere.
So you're doing property management there for that area?
Yeah, I mean we are. My mom is actually she was already retired, and we got the condo together. It's a cash market in Tulum, and so we went 50-50 on it.
That's stinking awesome.
And she said, "Hey, I just want to manage it ourselves rather than paying somebody 25%." Because she's retired. She's like, "I got nothing going on. Let me do it."
That's
I was like,
so
"Sure,
cool.
why not?" And then by doing that, the other owner, she became part of the HOA.
Yeah.
It started asking. They saw how our property was performing better than theirs in the same building. So they started asking her to manage the other units, and now she has 17.
Wow. That's so cool, man. That is so cool. So opportunities, and you said this, and I got to go back to it. It's like when you got on the ship, you realized you were thinking too small.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and that's the thing. You want to be around people who think bigger than you.
100%.
So we got an opportunity to go on a cruise last year with the Grant Cardone cruise.
Yeah.
And we were in the room. There were 3 billionaires that were on the ship. I think I told you a little bit about this, but it was amazing sitting there and John Maxwell, like in one of my biggest mentors, a book author, and you're having these, we're doing these little small masterminds, and then you're hearing, and then you start realizing like, wow, like I thought this was the top.
Yeah.
Right. But no. There's a way bigger vision.
Right.
And so how did you start stretching your mind to see bigger than where you're at even right now? How are you doing that?
Yeah, I mean, by surrounding myself with people who are doing more than what I am, right? I mean, just, you've had Binkan on the show, and like, to me, like, he's proof that you can always do more.
100%.
Right?
100%. Yeah, to have an agent, doing 100 million in our city is crazy.
It's wild.
And he almost did 200 million.
Right.
I mean, he was really close to 200 million, which is mind blowing. But then when you get next to him and you know his work ethic, you go, okay, this dude, like he's working, like he's really, really moving and grooving, and he's at speed.
Yeah.
Like what you talked about earlier, right? That speed of just let's get it done, let's solve problems.
Right.
So what advice if you were sitting, you did your agent just the other day. A new agent walks in and they're like, Inyaki, how do you do it? Like, what's going to be your number one key advice for a new brand spanking new agent?
So as an agent, no one's really telling you what to do, right? You're essentially running your own business. And if nobody's telling you what to do, you may not do anything, right? So even if your calendar is blank, you got to figure out, even though you probably got into real estate to not work the hours that you're going to work at a company, you got to make yourself work the hours that you would work at a company. So I would be at the office 9 to 5, no matter what. And in that time, I would figure out what to do. I would always figure out how to keep pushing the ball forward, how to go to another networking event, how to figure out my marketing. So you just have to go to the office and figure things out, and don't stop working until you succeed.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you mentioned that. I tell the story, I think I mentioned it on his podcast, but I was in the office at Sotheby's at the Dominion, and Binkan and I were in the hallway.
Yeah.
This is when he first started. This was 2009, the summer of 2009. He's sitting in the corner, I'm sitting over here, and we're literally in a hallway in Inyaki. Like, it's just a hallway, and this dude is just on the phone, calling. Like, I finally look over, and who are you calling? Anybody who will answer. Yeah. That's literally and he went right back to calling. But he was in the office every day, you know, and that's what it takes. So get in the office and fill your calendar. I love that advice. That is great advice. Well, you seem like a reader. What are you reading now? What's a book that maybe you'd like to give away as like, hey, you got to read this?
You know, I'm always reading multiple things at the same time. I'm a fan of Audible, and I read it, and I'll pick some. I have a huge library at home, and now I'll just go back to previous books that I've read, and I'll just pick it out and read a chapter here or there. But right now, I'm really focused on learning about AI.
Okay, interesting. Any particular book you're reading about it right now, or just
mostly YouTube videos right now?
YouTube?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm learning from other practitioners right now. I'm learning. I don't want to get behind. I'm learning how to build tools. I'm learning how to get into this AI economy, because I think it can be very useful for simple tasks that we have in real estate, right? That they can be automated, they can be streamlined, and so everybody sees me as an AI expert in the office. I think I don't know anything about AI myself, so I'm always trying to learn more and more and more.
But you know, that's the point, right? Like, when you stay a learner, you're always ahead of everybody else. Yeah. When you stay a learner. Yeah. The minute you think you got it all figured out, it's done.
I have every Sunday I just like to learn, right? So whenever I'm not working, I'm still working by continuing to learn. So that's all I do typically on Sundays. Is, you know, it could be just a few hours, 2, 3, 4 hours, but I'm on YouTube just learning something.
Have you looked at this AI agent? Have you looked at this whole idea where, like, you could have program an AI to do a series of,
that's what I'm learning about right now. I'm building AI agents right now, and I'm failing at it. You know, like it doesn't work, and then I got to figure it out. So I know that as long as I keep doing it, I can get it to do what I need. Yeah,
yeah. Like, I've got a buddy, and one day you'll have to meet my buddy Wes. You definitely need to meet him. We're working on something right now, and the opportunities out there in the AI space are massive. Yeah,
and I would I would warn people, because I heard this the other day. It's like everybody wants to figure out how to make money in AI. Rather than trying to build a tool to sell or something like that, if you already have a business, if you're already a real estate agent, or you have a different business, figure out how to use AI in your business.
100%.
And grow your business.
Yep. That's exactly, the big piece to this is learn how to use it for yourself and make it work.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, make it work. Okay, to wrap this up, I'm curious as to, fitness, Tell me your fitness journey, because I can tell you're a pretty fit dude. I think everybody's seen your pull-up video. You do your pull-up video. Tell me your fitness journey. Did it start when you were younger, or at what point did you start your fitness journey?
Yeah, I mean, I was on the basketball team in high school, and so ever since then, our coach said if we catch you drinking a soda, the whole team is going to run and you're going to watch. So I don't drink soda because of that, and that was back from high school. But that's when I started working out, right? That's when we first got into the weight room, and ever since I've been working out, and I like to be as consistent as I can. I like to wake up early, go to the gym, and it's really a cheat code for business.
It is.
If you stay sharp, it not only does it help your body, but it helps your mind, and that's really why I work out. Even though, yes, I do pull-ups and I lift weights, I don't do it to look good. I do it to improve my business.
Which is interesting, right? Because most people go, "Well, I don't have time."
Yeah.
I don't have time. And the sad part is there's gonna be a point where you're gonna run out of time.
Right.
To be fit.
Exactly.
So what motivates? So the part that's motivating you is so that you're sharp. Is that what's motivating you every day?
Yeah, and of course I feel great. Whenever I work out, like a total difference in my day if I missed a workout. Right. I mean, it gives you more clarity. It's a better headspace, and overall it's just health. Right. Like, health is wealth, and
health is wealth.
I want to be able to play with my kids whenever I'm older and not fall down and break a bone because I didn't build muscle whenever I was younger. Yeah.
And so you do more lifting or cardio? Are you cardio and lifting, or both?
Yeah, cardio, lifting, pickleball.
Oh, and pickleball.
Yeah.
Get out.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so what level are you? Are you like a high level in
Yeah,
pickleball?
so I'm like a 3.5, 3.6. And
Okay.
for those who are pickleballers, they'll
they'll know
I'm
what
like,
that means.
I'm like intermediate.
Okay.
I'm not high level or anything like that.
But you're gonna beat most people if you pick up a pickleball racket.
Yeah, 100%. But I just started last November, right? So for it, just a few months, like I feel that I've improved a lot. And the thing is, I was feeling guilty because most of the pickleball that we do, I live in a country club community. We have 8 pickleball courts, and most of them go up between like 9 and 11 a.m. And to me, that's office time, right?
Yeah.
And so I started feeling guilty. I'm like, I'm playing pickleball. Like, I'm not getting to the office till like noon.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, something started happening. Those pickleball players started building relationships with me, and then I started getting deals. So
Stop.
Pickleball is a lead generator for me.
There
now.
you go. Isn't
Yeah.
that awesome?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's relationships.
It's relationships.
It's relationships. Yeah. So pickleball. Are you a runner? Do you run? Are you more?
Sometimes,
Well, like, what's your cardio? What do you like to do for cardio other than pickleball?
I like to get on the treadmill, do the incline, like
Okay, walk up an incline.
walk up an incline, and while I'm doing that, I'm learning something on my phone, or I'm answering emails. Like I probably should just focus on something else, but I can't stop. Like,
No.
you know?
I get it. No. That makes perfect sense. If when I'm in the lifting phase, that's what I would do is walk up an incline. My trainer, we would do that, and then we pick a podcast or pick something to learn, or a book. A book I'm reading right now, Ryan Holiday, is Discipline is Destiny.
Nice.
And it's powerful book about the power of discipline and why it's so important for us, because that daily discipline of working out, like this morning I went and swam. So I'm doing a training for a triathlon.
Oh, nice.
And so swimming is one of the most amazing like mental clarity things that I've ever done.
Yeah.
So powerful to clear the mind. I don't know if you've ever tried to like just swim laps.
Oh yeah, I have. It's hard.
It's so hard, but there comes a point where you click, your body clicks in, and you're able to do it. And my heart rate stays at like 100, 104.
Nice.
And it's almost like meditative.
Right.
It's meditative. You're just going back and forth, back and forth. So I love it. And kudos to you, man. It's about, so what would you say to someone that says, hey, I don't have time?
Do it first thing in the morning. Wake up at 5 a.m.
Get up early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you say you don't have time, you're probably not making the time.
Yeah.
And go to bed earlier.
Which is coming from somebody. So how old are you, Inyaki? How old?
33.
33.
Yeah.
So at 33, did this, the wisdom of like going to bed early, the wisdom of getting up early, where did that start back in your early 20s?
That started when I graduated college.
After college.
Whenever I decided, okay, it's time to focus and go to work.
Yeah.
And I started reading personal development. Like I'm always doing something with personal development, right?
Yeah.
So through that, reading The Miracle Morning, it's actually what got me waking up earlier and working out in the morning, rather, because I used to lift in the evenings because I thought I had more strength in the evenings because I've had a meal. But now that I'm not working out to look good, I'm working out for mental clarity. I do it first thing in the morning.
Yeah, smart. That's smart. So the reality is, for everybody listening, make time.
Make time.
Make time, because there's going to come a point where it's going to be really hard. Some people say, well, I'll wait till I'm 60 and then I'll work out.
Yeah.
It's too late.
Well, I forget how the quote goes, but it says like most men want 1,000 things, but a sick man only wants one thing, and when it's to not be sick.
Yeah. And when you're sick, it's really hard. So if you could, the longer we could take care of our body, the better.
Yeah.
And Inyaki, this has been fantastic. Thank you for being on TM3 Impact.
For sure.
Excited to get this out as soon as possible. This was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I had so much fun here. I appreciate you.
Enjoyed it. Take care, brother.
All right, brother.